Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our online Bible study, Living Power, where we are walking through the Bible in a year. This is January 9th, and we have a wonderful lesson today, and the next couple of days are just incredibly rich. I'm so glad each and every one of you are here with me. And we have both men and women in the study, and we have some teenagers in the study also. So it is just great to have such a wonderful class. I wanted to thank you for posting. Many of you posted some comments last week on the blog. And just as a reminder, if you've not done that, you can find the comments beneath the video when you're finished watching. And that's just a place where we can kind of share takeaways from the lesson and just give encouragement to one another. So to everyone who posted last week, I just want to say thank you for doing that. It really encourages me, and I have tried to reply to each and every one of you. And I would encourage you also to, as you feel led, to reply to one another and just offer encouragement to them as well. Okay, in the last couple of days, we have seen a lot happen in this story of the patriarchs. We see Hagar and Ishmael are sent away. We see that Abraham makes a treaty with this person called Abimelech. We see Sarah, Terah, who is Abraham's father, and Abraham all pass away, and Abraham is about 175 years old when he dies. We see the almost sacrifice of Isaac. Wow, what a story. And we see Isaac marries a beautiful woman named Rebekah. And then we're introduced to these two twin boys that Rebekah has, Jacob and Esau. And that's what brings us to our lesson today. Today we're going to see Jacob and Esau growing up into men who make very different choices in their life and have a very different calling or destiny on their life as ordained by God. Before we get into their story, I wanted to see if you could find something very interesting. There is a motif here that I'm finding, and it has to do with this person named Abimelech. Actually, Abimelech may not be a person after all. It appears that Abimelech may have been a Philistine title, kind of like Pharaoh or Caesar was a title. So notice in chapter 20, Abraham makes a treaty with Abimelech. Remember, we read that already. And today we're reading about Isaac making a treaty with Abimelech in chapter 26. So see if you can find, go back to chapter 20 and stay here in 26. See if you can find some similarities in this whole interchange with Abimelech. I actually found 7, and I'm going to tell you what they are. The similarities in this motif, the similarities are, first there was famine in the land. There was a plan to go to Egypt. There was a stopover in this place called Gerar. They both, Isaac and Abraham, called their wife their sister, and their wife was very beautiful. Remember, Rebekah and Sarah both were very beautiful. Abimelech was very concerned about committing adultery and not knowing, because he thought these women, he didn't know they were married. And then Abimelech rebukes both Abraham and Isaac for not telling them, for being deceitful about this. So it's interesting that in 1 Samuel 21 verse 10, this person named Achish is also known as Abimelech. So when we get there and you see Abimelech in the Bible, I don't want you to think that this is the same person or a name that's being reused. I think this is actually a title. As I said, like Pharaoh or Caesar, it's a Philistine title. And you can also find it, if you're interested, in Psalm 34. So I think what this repeated motif is telling us is that the covenant is being reconfirmed in a very marked way. We are not to miss the fact that God is reconfirming the covenant that He made with Abraham, and He's making it again with Isaac in the same way, the same covenant. It has not changed. God's promises remain the same for all time. And in chapter 26, verse 23, let's read together to remind ourselves this covenant that God is remaking here with Isaac. It says, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you. I will multiply your descendants, and they will become a great nation. Here is the covenant being reconfirmed with Isaac. So now this takes us to Jacob and Esau. Wow, what a story. Jacob is about to steal not only a birthright, but the blessing from Esau, his older brother. Now, the blessing is important because the blessing is actually part of the birthright. In the culture of this day, the eldest son inherited most of the property. He got a greater proportion than the other sons, and the blessing was part of the birthright. So it was very important to them to receive this. Now, here we see in this story, we see a mother who loves a son more than another, and that favoritism does cause some problems. It says that she loves Jacob, and Isaac favored Esau. Now, Esau was a hunter, and Jacob was not. So we need to go back, though, for just a minute to chapter 25, verse 23, and be reminded that when Rebekah was pregnant with these two, God let her in on a secret. He told her something that was going to happen in their life. And remember, when she was still pregnant, he told her that the older would serve the younger, which is just so backwards from the culture. It was just so backwards from, common sense. And so Rebekah and Isaac both knew the prophecy that Jacob would be lord over his brother Esau. So that's the setting. As we see now, Isaac, he's lying down. He's probably in his tent. He's probably around 137 years old or so. His eyesight is failing. He is dying. This is his last will and testament, so to speak. Rebekah knows that he wants to impart the blessing and that he's asking for Esau. So she wants Jacob, her son, to go in and receive this blessing. So she convinces Jacob to lie to his father twice and go in and deceive him into thinking that he's someone that he's not. Now notice Isaac is deceived by his senses 3 times. Can you find all 3 times? He is deceived by his hearing. He doesn't think he's hearing Esau, but he's not so sure. Then he wants the confirmation of physical touch. He wants to touch him, to feel Esau's very hairy. And because Jacob is wearing a coat, this goat skin, Isaac says, thinks to himself, this must be Esau. And then as Isaac is asking him to come down and give him a kiss, he does this so he can test his sense of smell. Esau smells of the hunt. He smells of game. He's a hunter. And Isaac is going to test to see, what do I smell? Do I smell? Well, it smells like Esau. It must be Esau. So then he gives the blessing, and the blessing includes prosperity and crops, dominion over other nations and his brothers. It includes a curse on those who will curse him and blessing on those who will bless him. So Jacob is to be lord of his brethren. About that time, Esau gets home, and he comes in, and boy, the whole scene blows up. Isaac is so angry, the Bible says he's trembling. He cannot believe what he has just done. Esau is furious. Oh, his brother Jacob has stolen his birthright and now his blessing. He is absolutely beside himself. Jacob is thinking, I've got to get out of here. Esau is going to kill me. And so we later see that he has to leave. He has to leave his family and go someplace else. So Rebekah has to send her son away, and she says, go to my brother Laban and live with him, and you can be amongst our people and live there. Now, one note that I wanted to make about Rebekah. Do you remember what Rebekah said to Jacob when she was trying to convince Jacob to do this whole thing in the first place? Remember, she said, "If there is a curse, let it fall on me for doing this." Ooh, big mistake. She actually did receive a curse because when she is sending her son, her beloved son Jacob, away, she dies before he ever returns. And hence that was the curse placed on her for this, is that she never sees her beloved son again for the rest of her life. So Jacob steals the blessing. He steals the birthright. And we can see the character of Jacob as a bit of a schemer and a bit of a deceiver. In fact, this is what his name actually means. We see that Jacob and Esau are making different choices. And we'll see in, I think it's tomorrow's reading, Jacob leaves and he goes and he finds a wife amongst his own people. Now I want you to notice that Esau is not making the same choices. He has already married 2 Canaanite women, and the mom, Rebekah, is not pleased with them. It's causing some strife in the family. And one thing I wanted to make sure you understood, because this will be very important as we move through the Old Testament, is understanding that marrying in the family line, and not marrying these outside peoples, these Canaanites, is very, very important. To marry a Canaanite would destroy the purity of the line, and it would ultimately destroy the faith of the people. So here we see different choices being made in these marriages. And I think the key lesson Bible verse for today, which I haven't even mentioned yet, is when Esau says to his father, "Oh, my father, what about me? Bless me too," in Genesis 27, the last part of verse 34. Bless me too. And don't we oftentimes think that? And I want to say that to our God. And in this lesson, I think we can learn that God's people live by faith, trusting God to handle everything, and are careful to follow His commands. Remember our patriarch, the father of our faith, Abraham, even in death was faithful to God's command. Remember when he bought that burial plot? That was significant in the story to show that even in death, he remained in the land. He was very careful to choose a wife for his son Isaac, who came from the family line. Again, being very careful to follow the commands of the Lord. How careful are we to follow God's word to the letter? How careful are we to remain obedient to Him? You know, this lesson today shows us that God's plans cannot be thwarted by man. He chooses to use man to accomplish His purposes. But blessing comes through obedience in living a life of faith, not through deceit, but in choosing to live a life of trust, faith, and love. We are people who walk by faith, not by sight. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson today. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.